the room, feel free to come join us up here as we are about to kick off the program. It is an honor and a joy to join you guys for the SAP Spotlight Tour. I am Alexis Glick. I am the CEO of the Gen Youth Foundation and have had the pleasure of now working with SAP for the past 3 years. At Gen Youth, we run the largest health and wellness program in schools across the nation. We are in 73,000 schools, reaching 38 million kids a day, and our whole emphasis is on what you guys are going to talk about today, and that is the importance of keeping our kids active, eating healthy, fueling up their bodies and minds for success, and how they can use technology, data, the Internet of Things to help tell their stories, to help drive their solutions to nutrition and physical activity in their school buildings and communities. So I am so honored and overjoyed to be with you here this morning to talk about something that's so near and dear to the work I do every day. If you think about SAP and my experience with SAP, they're all about redefining the impossible. It's about taking big data, the Internet of Things, and using the in-memory capacity of things like SAP HANA to really do predictive technology, look at preventive technology, and look at how we can build awareness around some of our greatest health disparities, some of our greatest opportunities in things like sports, to do revolutionary things. As someone who works hand in glove with the National Football League, how many of us know that a team that is essentially injury-free, that does the best in their capacity to ensure that their athletes are not only primed for the season, but can handle the capacity of a 16-game season and be ready for the playoffs? Look at what's happened in the past couple of weeks to the New England Patriots. It's been about injuries. So what you do with preventive technology to predict your athlete's capacity, their ability to go the distance in an NFL season. A lot of folks believe the Golden State Warriors last year were the champions in large measure because they were injury-free. There's a science behind it. There's the data, there's the analytics. And that data and that analytics allows teams like the German football team, the German soccer team, to win World Cups. And it's a lot of that technology that I've seen firsthand at SAP that has the capacity to do some of that. Let me just talk to you for a moment about why these two subjects. Why healthcare, why sports? Let me give you some statistics to help you understand why we're putting these two things together in this room today. When you look at healthcare, there are 7 billion people around the world. It's projected to be 9 billion. It's probably the most important thing that people think about every day, their health. But if you also look at it, this sector alone generates 30% of the world's data. Think about that. This one industry vertical called healthcare generates 30% of the world's data. Think about the possibilities of what you could do with that data to help prevent health disparities. Sports. Sports today, data around sports. I'm a former journalist. On television, we use data to not only predict and analyze, but if you look at it today, data is being used to make your team stronger, smarter, faster. Sports is an industry. It's a $100 billion industry around the globe and only growing. If you look at media today, media is consumed. The top programs are consumed by the largest sports organizations in the world. There's a strong interconnection between what they're doing on the field, on the court, on the ice, and how they're interacting with their consumer. And data is helping tell that story. So when we think about big data and the Internet of Things today, we're going to get very personal. And you're saying, well, personal, let me understand what that means. Well, it is personal. It's personal because if you think about sports, we're all fanatics. We have a fanaticism about our sports. We have a fiduciary responsibility to think about our bodies and our personal health. So when you think about prevention, prediction, and all the things that this data can do, let's not forget that all of what we're talking about today is very personal. You're going to hear from industry leaders. You're going to hear from executives. You're going to hear from the experts today on health and sports. And if you're thinking about how we're going to take this dialogue, this conversation forward, you're probably looking at the room and you're seeing maybe some underage folks in the room. And you're thinking, what are these people doing here? Well, there's people like me and several of the organizations who work closely and side by side with SAP, like NIFTY, like the BTech High School, which is actually not too far from here, who have sent students here today. And we want those students to be those disciples, those ambassadors. So some of what you're going to see our students do today is they're going to tweet, they're going to periscope, they're going to tell everyone and anyone they can the story of what they're learning here today around the importance of sports and health and the connection to big data and the Internet of Things. So embrace them, welcome them. They may actually even come up to you and ask you to be interviewed. And oh boy, kids, not kids, well they're adults, but students, you know, they're unshackled. They're going to ask you some things that you may not have expected, and hopefully we're going to generate a great dialogue around why they care so much about what we're talking about. Because when you think about these students, they are digital natives. What does that mean? We go home and some of us, our primary language is English, some of us, our primary language is Mandarin, German. Their primary language is technology. They're teaching us how to innovate. They're teaching us how to move faster, quicker, and oh, by the way, they're demanding the data. They're demanding the analysis. So who better than to help tell our story today but the students who are in this room, because they're the ones who are going to help drive the innovation forward. So let me give you a couple other quick stats that when I was reading in preparation for this really blew my mind. Do you realize that there are more young people now than in the history of humanity? Let me give you a statistic. There are 1.8 billion kids ages 10 to 24. Think about it. We just talked earlier about 7 billion. There are 1.8 billion kids 10 to 24. Think about how they're going to expect you to use that data, to use that technology to change their fan experience, to change the way they interact with the healthcare system. So as you think about what we're going to talk about today, simply put your digital native hat on and almost think like you would think like Hunter, who's sitting right here, and he's laughing. Hi, Hunter. Because in the world we live in right now, if you think about this, every 20 seconds, if you think about it, data is being created that didn't exist on the internet 20 years ago. More data is being created in 20 seconds than when it existed on the internet 20 years ago. That's a game changer. That's the direction we're going in. We believe youth are the driving force. And that is why we have been honored at Gen Youth to partner with SAP for the past 3 years. Because they believe that youth are the agents of change. And together, we are exploring things with these students in ways that we never thought possible. And the person who's teaching us the most is that kid who's sitting right next to you in these chairs. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the logistics of the morning so I can get you on to our exciting task that we have ahead of us. Here's how we're going to do it this morning. So first and foremost, our day will concentrate on the first part of the day on healthcare. You're going to hear from SAP, ASCO, and Stanford. They're going to give some presentations. We'll allow for Q&A at the end of the first panel. That Q&A probably will be at most 10 minutes. There'll be a couple people on the sides who have microphones. Make sure that when you step up for a question, your name, your organization, and let's just make sure it's not commentary but questions, since time is short and valuable. Then we'll have our sports panel. That sports panel is going to take the stage from 11:15 to 12:15. We'll also leave 10 minutes of Q&A at the back end of that sports panel. Then we'll have lunch right in the back of the room. That lunch will convene right around 12:15, 12:30. Then at 1 o'clock, we'll reconvene back here on stage so that you can see some of the demos on healthcare. And following the demo on healthcare, we're going to show you the SAP Sports One solution at 1:30. We guarantee you the event will be wrapped up at 2 o'clock. You'll be well on your way, but I hope that what you'll find in this next 4 hours is not only looking at some of the great experts in these fields in terms of how they're using data, the Internet of Things, and in-memory technology to change their solutions, but how you might be able to do that on a go-forward basis. Last but not least, let me just say a couple things. What we're discussing in this room, we want to amplify outside of this room. Social media. So, if you could, please, if you're hearing things that you do think are game changers, hashtag SAP Spotlight, or hashtag SAP Sports, or hashtag SAP Healthcare. Those are the hashtags we'll be using throughout the day. As I said, the student journalists will be all over social media, but we welcome you doing the same. Just make sure that your ringers are off so that we don't have all kinds of funky ringing going on while we're going through this. So we've got a jam-packed, exciting day, and without further ado, we're going to do this introductory video, and then SAP's General Manager and Global Head of Database,